Wait Until Dark is a 1967 thriller from director Terence Young starring Audrey Hepburn, Richard Crenna and Alan Arkin. Hey, so first of all, let me say to the new subscribers, I really appreciate you being there, and I'm gonna make sure to check out your channels in case you've got a movie review channel on YouTube. So tonight I picked a classic movie. It's the last 3 days before Halloween and I don't want to get frustrated, so I don't want to take any risks. So I try and pick a movie which is not gonna frustrate the hell out of me. And tonight's movie, I've been meaning to watch this for ages and ages. I first heard about it nearly 20 years ago. I read something in a magazine that's supposed to have this tense climax, and with the title like Wait Until Dark, I thought, well, this is gonna be something very appropriate. This movie isn't really such a horror film, though. As I started watching it, I realized, first of all, it's based on a play, so it's like a limited cast of characters in pretty much one location, so there is that limitation, and there isn't that much by way of explicit terror. But the tense finale really truly is tense, and there was actually one jump scare which worked for me, so I guess it's appropriate enough for 31 Days of Horror. Wait Until Dark was directed by Terence Young. He's this Irish filmmaker, probably best known for his several James Bond movies, and he directed my second favorite James Bond film, which is From Russia with Love. I don't really know his filmography that well. The films I've seen up to now have been not so brilliant, nothing visually outstanding, and usually a bit overlong. I think he directed Thunderball, and I'm not a fan of that one, so that was really a drag. So I was a little bit reserved, but when it comes to Wait Until Dark, I was really stunned. The film's opening is really taut and tense. The first 15-20 minutes got me really involved. I gotta say, this film, if you're gonna check it out, go for the Blu-ray. Don't go for the DVD, because there is a chasm in terms of some movies, especially black and white ones, can look okay on DVD, but not the case here. Wait Until Dark has a relatively naturalistic look, so there aren't any expressionistic touches there or colored gels or anything of that sort. It's a fairly realistic look, but considering this is from the 60s, it was shot on gorgeous film stock and developed in a certain way, printed in a certain way, so it has that marvelous color to it, which is lost on all the DVD incarnations, which look dull and flat. So that's it. Like, just the opening credits, which has like changing typeface from sometimes gray, black and white over those shots of airport and aircrafts there. It just had the beautiful blues, whites, reds. It just looks sensational. If you enjoy films made on 35mm, that's a very handsome looking movie. Even though there aren't outrageous camera moves, this isn't like a Dario Argento or a Mario Bava visual feast. It's more of a actor-based movie. So as I said, Wait Until Dark is pretty much a chamber piece with just a few actors in one location, which is like a basement flat. Few directors can pull this off, just have a handful of actors in a room and not make it boring without using lots of nudity and gore. And one director, I think, who's great at that is John Cassavetes. Terence Young does a very good job in that situation as well. 85% of the time, I thought, for a play adaptation, this was really tense and quite cinematic. Yes, there is a bit too much dialogue. The actors seem to have really lots of lines to go through at times, which made it a bit theatrical there, but on the whole, it's really enjoyable. Considering the film's vintage, it holds up quite well. I felt the film on the whole has dated very well. I love the exterior shots. They are few, but they have that also dank winter atmosphere, which I think maybe Terence Young, being an Irish person, maybe he could bring that with him to the to the movie. I don't know. Even though it's set in the States and all, most of the cast are Americans. The movie was produced by Mel Ferrer. He was at the time Audrey Hepburn's husband, but he doesn't act in the movie. He's just the producer. The cast consists of Richard Crenna from Rambo and Death Ship. There is Alan Arkin, who's absolutely smashing in this. Alan Arkin, one of my favorite actors. And there is this guy called Jack Weston, who I've never seen before. He is fantastic as well. And when it comes to this star, Audrey Hepburn, like, she was a bit of a stumbling block for me, strangely. I never had a problem with her in any movies. I've seen her in 1 or 2 films. Audrey Hepburn her character didn't seem very real to me. Like, she's married to this guy who looks like a chain smoker and looks older than her. Even though she wasn't super young when she made that film, like, you see there is like a soft filter when they show her close-ups, but still, I mean, her husband just, I mean, looks much craggier than her and kind of a lot more worn out by life. But that's not the problem. Both of them seem a bit like they've only been together for like a year or something, and her character is supposed to be so attached to this guy. It's like he's her son or he's her blood relative or something. It's really like she couldn't live without that guy, and they've barely been together a year. So I found that kind of, I don't know, maybe in the 60s life was different. Maybe people were a bit more could warm up to each other quick, I don't know. So it's adapted from a British play, so I felt at times American cast had trouble with some of the lines, which are written more in the English idiom, if you will, kind of getting around those, oh, rather, and isn't it? They were kind of, it felt a little bit stagey and a little bit fake at times. Maybe that was the result of them not adapting it enough. I don't know. Still, on the whole, dialogue was good. And the movie keeps you watching. There is a child actor, really good child actor. I wish I knew her name. The child has quite a prominent part in the movie, and the child is not annoying, and the child is not obnoxious or a bad actor. So that's fantastic. So obviously Terence Young can handle actors now. That's a hell of a thing. When you have a movie with just 5 or 6 characters pretty much carrying the movie, you have to be able to work with the actors. Audrey Hepburn, her character is this goody two-shoes. She's like, she doesn't seem to have a dark side, or let's say she doesn't seem to have a convincing maybe human touch to her. Like, we don't see her, we just don't see her kind of being honest. Like, she's upbeat and she's courageous and she wants to be the best possible companion for her partner or husband. She plays a blind person. I love movies about blind people. I gotta tell you, this is something I really enjoy, movies about people who are visually impaired. Audrey, I couldn't really see her, I didn't really buy her 100% as blind. I mean, she did look helpless and she did look frustrated at times, but blind, like her stumbling around the room wasn't always as realistic. I mean, if you think about good blind performances, I think about Carl Malden from a movie, Dario Argento's film, Cat o' Nine Tails. Now there is a blind person, like he doesn't wear the, you know, dark eyeglasses or anything. He's just there staring and he genuinely looks blind. Or if you know the movie Macabre, Stanko Molnar also plays a very convincing blind guy. So I thought the disability aspect wasn't portrayed super realistically, but that wasn't the problem either. I think the performance in itself was good, but there were 2 or 3 moments where Audrey Hepburn's character has this pretty much breakdowns, has this emotional reactions to challenges. Yeah, there is lots of challenges. She's trapped in this basement flat pretty much for the whole movie, and she's being manipulated by these crooks. And her reaction, just because the story didn't ring true there, so her giving it all looked like Shakespearean kind of actor kind of performance. It didn't really ring true the way some of the nastier characters' behavior worked convincing, you know, so that was a real problem. And Audrey Hepburn is a lot in this movie. She's the star, so I had the feeling she brought the star power. Like, she shines in the movie for sure. She's super delicate, she's got class, she's like this, you know, she's got the Audrey factor for sure. But you see her and she eclipses the character she's playing, and I find that a problem. You know, it's not always perfect for in that part as well. Also, the character itself, the way the character is written, has variable IQ. So at times her reactions are really stupid, and other times she very quickly catches up on the scheming, on the crook's scheming efforts, and suddenly, in the interest of the story moving on, she's suddenly intelligent again. So there were these moments where it didn't really gel. So she was switching from being a bit silly to being really sharp. I don't know, the main character, the focus point of the movie, this blind character, resourceful, blind, she just wants her husband back. That's all she wants. That was not enough. She didn't seem to have any reason for her own existence. She just wanted to make her husband happy, or boyfriend. And that boyfriend husband was quite a dull guy. So I gotta say, the really good performances came from supporting parts. Jack Weston was fantastic as one of the crooks, and the lead crook is Alan Arkin, who is such a creep. What a performance. I've seen Alan Arkin play all sorts, but this year, I mean, it was just a terrifying performance. It's, you just believe that he's for real, and that's you know, for a movie of that vintage, that's a great compliment, I find. Another great compliment, Henry Mancini's score. Oh my god, mind-blowing. It was that kind of, the level of emotional involvement there, it's like up there with the best Morricone scores or the best Bernard Herrmann scores. Fabulous. There was like one scene which was a bit sugary, I don't know where it came from. It was really just brief, it didn't really ruin the movie. Everything else, the music was just so haunting and suspenseful and jarring, all at the right moments. The score is very modern, it holds up fantastic. A lot of the movies of the vintage have really problems with dated music, but not the case here. Wait Until Dark. I was really impressed with this film. It almost lost me once, about 30 minutes into the movie. There was like a quick interlude there which was a bit rubbish, but after that the film picks up again and it builds to this wonderful climax in this darkened room, and you just don't know what's gonna happen. Genuinely, I think I felt thrilled, and there was one moment which caught me off guard, and I was like, oh my god, they really kind of made me jump a bit. I totally see John Carpenter, you know, getting inspired for this movie. I think certain movies like Lamberto Bava's Macabre might have definitely picked something up there. Dario Argento's Bird with Crystal Plumage might have definitely borrowed certain things from this film. So it's a real, it's textbook suspense horror thriller filmmaking, and one of the more successful play adaptations. For example, Hitchcock's Dial M for Murder is less effective as a movie than Wait Until Dark, or Hitchcock's Rope. I find basically I think Terence Young has proven himself more adept at bringing something from stage to the movie screen compared to the great Maestro Hitchcock. What else can I say about this movie? I mentioned the beautiful cinematography, great exterior shots, interesting characters. Not main characters, but there are enough interesting characters who feel real to carry through most of the movie. There is Richard Crenna. It was the first time I saw Richard Crenna play some kind of character with a bit more dimension than in other movies I know him from, and he was cool as well. I thought he was a bit better in the beginning of the movie than in the development, because he kept getting more and more dialogue piled on him, and it's hard to keep your character interested when you got so much to say all the time. See, the cool characters like the Terminator, they got like 5 lines in the movie and you never forget them, or they got no lines, they act, you know, they do something. Whereas Richard Crenna was like blah 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 this, blah 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 that, and some of it was like really theatrical, stagey British dialogue, which didn't always become him so well. But I'm so pleased I checked out Wait Until Dark. What a wonderful surprise. It only took me 20 years to get around to it, but it was well worth it. I think I'll be adding this movie to my collection. Great tense finale, absolutely wonderful. I'm sure there are more things I'd like to bring up. It's just my first impression, and that was my first quick look at Wait Until Dark. Thanks for watching.